The November 6th election is just around the corner, and surely one of the most interesting candidates is here with me today. He's running for Congressional District 2. His name is Kawika Crowley, and I want him to tell you his story. Kawika, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Malia.
Now, you're running as a Republican. You're running against Tulsi Gabbard, who won an amazing race against Mufi Hanneman.
Come from behind.
Came from behind, and she had her signs on every island and every corner, had a lot of money behind her, many PACs, political action committees, and their big money. And she ran a good campaign, and she beat a savvy, experienced politician and businessman in town. And now you're up against her, and you have a completely different war chest. I don't know if you have any war. I don't know if you have any war in your chest.
I have no chest. And
you have
I have
no
no
chest.
War.
But that's okay. We want to hear your story and what it is that made you decide to run for office. So tell us about you.
Sure.
Who is Kawika Crowley?
Well, I'm originally from Hilo, raised in Japan. In fact, first 9 years of my life in Japan, my parents were missionaries. So I went to Japanese school because my parents decided to do their ministry in the boonies, no military base nearby. This was after the war, obviously. And so I ended up going to Japanese school like every other Japanese kid, and then I would come back home, and then my mother would teach me English. So consequently, I learned to hate English. So when I finally came to Hilo, 61, I remember 8th grade, Mrs. Nip came up to me and said, after class, she said, "You know what, Mr. Crowley, you got to learn your ABCs, you know. Everybody learned them in their kindergarten." And she kind of pounded it into me, and I'd always get stuck at LMNOP, and then I'd have a blank. So I learned my ABCs in the 8th grade.
And you were speaking what in Japanese in Japan?
Well, Japanese became my mother tongue. So it was difficult. I can still carry on a good hour conversation. You know, I've forgotten a lot. Yeah, but that's how, the diversity of my background, and then being raised in Hilo and being a little white chubby boy in Hilo back in the 60s was not fun. Got my butt kicked around a lot, and long story short, ended up joining the Hilo Boxing Club under the tutelage of the legend Andy Filoteo, and made a name for myself in boxing. And my first year, voted Big Island Rookie of the Year. Second year, Big Island Most Popular Fighter of the Year. Now, this is a Haole kid, Haoles are not supposed to fight. Back then, our job was to get our butt kicked. So, it's been a lot of challenges in my life. I raised my 3 kids alone as a single parent for 12 years. When I was 29, got custody of them, and I didn't know how to cook a pot of rice. I'm amazed that my kids are still alive today from the garbage that I cooked them. But it changed my life. It changed theirs as well. So my life has been filled with challenges and challenges. So being the underdog in this race, tremendous underdog. I mean, it's like I don't even exist. I'm used to that. And in fact, I thrive on it. So, hats off to Tulsi. She was the David, and Brother Mufi was the Goliath. Now I'm the David, and she's the gorgeous Goliath. Okay, so it should be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, you have an interesting background in that you are a contractor. And handyman, okay. And you are a very talented artist, I know that. You make all kinds of good art creations. But what about your personal background, your ups and downs and challenges you've had in Hawaii? Economically.
Economically. Well, like I said, when I was raising the kids, there were times, we struggled without electricity. No phone, no water. We'd all be sitting around the kitchen table doing our homework with candlelight. So challenges are very much a part of my life. I think, the issues here concerning Tulsi, granted, you got to give her credit. 2 terms in the military, fantastic. I mean, hats off to her. But that should not be the issue. She's pretty much running a lot of her campaign on that she's a dedicated war hero. Hats off to her again, and our gratitude to her. But the issue, it should be the issues of the difference between she and I on fundamental core values that our great nation was founded upon. And our great nations, the values that our nation was founded upon, comes from the Bible. Now, I'm not going religious on you, Malia. In fact, I'm a deist. I come from, preacher's kids and stuff, and I was raised in a conservative home, but I'm a deist right now in the last 10, 15 years. So when I say that we were founded upon Christian values and principles, I'm saying that literally because Thomas Jefferson was a deist, and other founding fathers were deists as well. They believed in a supreme being. But as far as the personal relationship factor, that was another issue. That did not minimize the importance of the values and the principles that the Bible laid out, which the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution was all based upon, you see. And that is where I take issue with Tulsi. I don't know with her faith, she has a right to believe in whatever religion she wants, as far as her faith in Hindu, that's fine. But are those the same core values that our Christian nation was founded upon? That's a big question that people need to ask. Also, the stark differences between she and I concerning issues like abortion. She's very much pro-abortion. I'm against abortion, except for situations of incest and rape. Of course, the person should be able to have an opportunity to make their own decision on that. Other issues such as the sanctity of marriage. I believe in the protection of the sanctity of marriage, or the definition of it, as being between a man and a woman. She doesn't. Stark differences. And I think when people start to realize across the 2nd District these stark issues, these differences between us, I think it's going to be a phenomenal change. And I think the explosion of support for me over the last 2 or 3 weeks is a testament to that, including being endorsed by the Maui Chamber of Commerce last week. Great honor. So just in a nutshell, that's pretty much, I think, that's why I'm demanding a debate. As of yesterday, I sent them a notice requesting a debate. And I think the people in Hawaii, especially the 2nd District. Now, Malia, I'm sure you know this, being in the media for so many years. There's a big difference. We've all, in the 2nd District, Outer Islands, it's all Democrat. Democrat, Democrat, from the old plantation days and the Union and everything. Democrat, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. However, down in the heart, issue-wise, the 2nd Congressional District is a lot more conservative than people really think, such as on views of abortion, marriage, gun control, and things like that. And I just don't think that my opponent is in tune with that, because she stands for everything that I'm against, as well as my constituents in the 2nd District are against.
So besides, abortion, and you're a Second Amendment advocate, I'm gathering.
Yes, of course.
And also you are for traditional marriage.
Yeah.
What are some of the other issues that impact everybody's everyday life? Like,
sure.
Economics.
Economics. Our founding fathers, they were brilliant, just phenomenal, brilliant. By the way, I'm a direct descendant of the Mayflower. And through that same blood, I'm also related to the 2nd President of the United States, the great John Adams. So I've got a lot of deep vested interest in protecting the founding of this nation. And their view of what the federal government was supposed to be, I always use this as an analogy. Picture the pyramids in Egypt, okay? Just picture a pyramid. At the top of that pyramid was the federal government, very small. Then it grew bigger into the state governments, then to the masses, into the jurisdictions of the counties, okay? That's how we were founded. You know what it's like today, Malia? The whole thing is
turned upside down, it's true.
All right, so you've got this huge mass of federal bureaucracy up there, and then it gets smaller and smaller, and we're the little guy down here. We're supporting the big federal obese. I call it the obese behemoth. Do you know how many people are employed by the federal government right now? Over 2 million. 250,000 were added just in this man's administration. That's scary. So going back to your question as far as economics and other things, I'm for limited government. There's just too much regulation. In Hawaii, it's so hard to start your own small business. It's difficult. Why? Because you got to go through this. Then you got your EPA up your, you know what. Then you got one regulation. I mean, it's just government out of control. The key question I present to the people of Hawaii is dysfunctional. Are you sick of dysfunctional government? I got one example for you, which should show you. By the way, the president was asked yesterday, do you know what the national debt is? He hadn't a clue. Here's the captain of our ship. He has no idea how much gas we got or diesel in the bottom of the ship. That's alarming. Here's another example. You got Nancy Pelosi with a straight face.
House minority leader.
Right? Mm-hmm. Thank goodness she's minority now. When she was at the peak, she stood there in front of a television and said, concerning the Obamacare, we need to pass this bill so that we can find out what is in it. Are you stupid? That's like a couple going to see a car to purchase it. And the guy tells his girlfriend, you know what, honey, let's buy it to see if it works. We would never conduct business. You and I would never conduct business like that.
Right.
But in Congress, that dysfunctional piece of cesspool in Washington, D.C. has to be changed. It's got, if I'm elected, I'm going to get off that plane in Washington, D.C. with a toilet plunger in my hand as my mascot. And I think I'll have all of the backing of all my constituents. It's time for a clean house.
So what are the first things that you'd do if you did get elected?
Probably one of the first things is I would introduce legislation. I call it the Washington Massive Diet Plan, okay? Now, you got to understand, there are so many bureaucracies. It's just unbelievable. I've been to Washington. My whole family is from Washington area, so I'm very familiar with the whole Congress, been in the Capitol, the whole works. I mean, it is so complicated, such a complicated mess. You've got bureaucracy under department under, I mean, it's just nuts. You cannot just go in and say, okay, let's just get rid of the Department of Education. You cannot. It's too many people employed, number one, and it affects too many things. What you can do is like when you and I want to lose weight. Well, we don't lose, wake up the next morning and, oh, gee, hey, we just lost 30 pounds. We die. What we have to do is little by little by little. So I have a 5-year plan called the Washington Massive Diet Plan. Every department, from HUD, you name it, Department of Agriculture, even the Department, Pentagon, even the military, we've got to stop this waste. There's waste, there's fat sitting on fat, sitting on fat. My proposal will be, and I'll introduce legislation, every department must cut for a 5-year period 5% per year for every single department. Within 5 years, we would have cut our massive federal government by 25%. And it's not going to be that painful of an adjustment. 5% a year, 5% a year. That's one of my main things that I'm going to be promoting when I get to Washington.
So you talk about, you know, Congress, I mean, government isn't working, it's overblown. But do you think that there's support for a plan like that right now?
I think so. I think the Democrats have not a clue as to the ramifications of that huge tidal wave of Tea Party patriots being elected in 2010. Either that or they're just refusing to acknowledge it. And you think 2010 was a tidal wave? Look out, folks. Look out. 2012, we're going to bring some more conservative people in. I guarantee you. And to answer your question, yes, of course, I feel strongly that the 2012 the Congress will be a Congress filled with a lot more conservative-minded people. So now my idea for this would not have gone anywhere 5-10 years ago, but I think it will have a chance to get some support.
And what are your thoughts on the Senate? Do you think the Republicans will take the Senate? There's a 4-seat to catch up with 4 seats,
Right.
and that's a big issue because will the Republicans have the House and the Senate? Will they also have the presidency? Will they, lose one of those or both?
I'm predicting a clean sweep. I really am. Obama is going to be defeated in a near landslide. He has the media in his pocket from day one, so obviously the polls that you hear, I think, are skewed, and screwed. We're going to hold on to the House majority, and those 4 seats and more in the Senate, I predict, we're going to gain for the Republicans.
I want to get a little bit more into your background, but what do you think, if you had to sum up, before we get more into your background, sum up what you stand for? What do you think what would you say?
The biggest question right now is there any limit to the federal government? I'm a fiscal conservative. I expect that government to run their operation in the same manner I do, pinching pennies, making sure I don't write checks with no money in the bank. That is the basis, plus respecting the Constitution. Okay? There's just too many liberals moving to the area where the Constitution doesn't make any sense. It's a living, breathing document. BS. Okay? It is chiseled in stone, so respect it. The most powerful written Constitution in the history of man. It has to be respected. So I'll be going to Washington pretty much, there's 3 people that I'm going to answer to, put it that way. My constituents, the Constitution, and the great founding fathers. Everything else I do say from that point is going to be based upon that principle. Mm-hmm.
Now, you're carrying a cigar. I should have asked you this before, but why do you do that? What is your passion for cigars? And
well, it all started, the mantra in the debates between Tulsi and Mufi and others was we need experience so we can hit the ground running. Well, my question is, running where? In circles? We don't need experience. Are you kidding? We got guys been in Congress since the Ice Age. All the experience in the world, but they're buffoons. What we need is common sense. And I think people don't realize the experience I've had in dealing with politics and lawmakers, and dealing with lawmakers at the Capitol especially.
I've seen you at the Capitol many times.
Yes, I practically lived there.
Yes.
In fact, I joked around with people, I have a small little place down there in the janitor room there that I stay. And it's important for people to know that I've been involved with politics pretty much all my life, issues and things like that. I ran for mayor of the Big Island in 1991. Also handled 7 political campaigns during the 80s when I ran my ad agency. But how this all came into being was very quickly. About 2006, the smoking ban law was ushered in.
Right.
So.
Through the state.
Okay,
on the state level,
yes,
it was ushered in. Yep.
Yes. And I was infuriated. So long story short, I helped to start the Hawaii Bar Owners Association, representing about 150 small bars and small restaurants around the state. And under that auspices, I became, along with a few other wonderful people that I'm not going to mention names because they're probably going to say, why you mention my name? Wonderful people who were partners, and I was one of the lead lobbyists for trying to allow for smoking exemptions for bars, as well as protecting the increase, avoiding the ever increasing taxes on liquor and stuff like that. So I did that for 6 years, spent hundreds of hours at the Capitol, working on both sides of the Democrats and Republicans, although there was only one in the Senate, or 2. But a point I'm trying to make is here I am, a conservative, and 90% of the people that I dealt with were Democrats. So I know how, this whole thing, well, Kawika maybe doesn't have the experience. No, I've got the experience. Why? Because 6 years later, the smoking ban is still unenforceable. We have become, our campaign here has become the Bible for all other campaigns across the nation and in Europe. So we're very proud of our achievements. And so experience, I've got experience, a lot of experience in working with legislation, crafting legislation, and working with lawmakers.
Now, what about some of these campaigns you've worked on the Big Island? Tell me about that.
Sure. Andy Levin worked on his campaigns.
And he's a Democrat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a Democrat. But back then, you know, it was a different form of a Democrat than the progressive of today. Okay. And Andy and I differed on a few views, but I felt that he was the best of all the candidates, and so I accepted his request to handle his campaign. So he ran twice, and we won. Now he's been the managing director for the Big Island for a number of years, doing very well there. Also, the late, great Dick Matsuura handled 2 of his campaigns, and one, I'll never forget, he was running against Mr. Matayoshi, former mayor. And Matayoshi was running against Matsuura, and Matsuura was a 2-to-1 underdog. I mean, it was front page, you know, this is going to be an easy shoe-in for Matayoshi. And I sat Dick down and I said, okay, this is my plan. And we're going to have to present you in this light and this delivery and this and that. And it worked. He ended up beating him 2-to-1. So I've got a lot of experience in dealing with a political strategy. So I'm kind of utilizing all of that experience with the experience working at the Capitol. And then going back to the cigar, that became my mantra, my little thing, just to kind of at first irk people. You know, that here I was walking around in the Capitol with a cigar in my mouth. And so it kind of caught on. And every time I'd be on TV, there was a cigar. So I kind of kept it. And so you see now, when I do my campaigns, rallies on the side of the road, probably most people remember or know me by the 9/11 rallies.
I was just going to ask you about that, right?
Yeah.
Well, just to get back to the cigar, one last thing. It's kind of a symbol of freedom in a sense for you, right?
Sure. Yeah. I not only enjoy smoking cigars, but it's also a symbol of freedom and, you know what? Defiance. Government, get the hell out of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm a businessman. I got enough of your stuff in my pants I got to deal with. I should be able to make the choice to say, okay, smokers allowed in here or smokers not allowed. As a businessman. As a businessman.
Right.
Or a bar owner.
Mm-hmm. And then you have the customers deciding if they want to be in there.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, go back to the 9/11 rally. When did you start those, and what is it exactly for people who haven't seen you?
Sure. About 3 years ago, on the when was it, the 8th anniversary, I'm a big I'm very passionate about the 9/11 situation. And I normally, on the 1-year anniversary, put a big flag on my van and I drive around all over Windward Side and all over and just kind of honk at others, you know. This time, 2008, was it? Yeah, 2008, 2009. I didn't see any flags. You know, usually guys put up the flags in front of their houses and on their cars, nothing. And I said, well, what the hell's happening here? Have we forgotten? I got so upset. I went to City Mill, bought some lumber, and made some makeshift thing with paint. You know, I did it all by myself. And the next day I was on the highway. I picked this place by HBU, Windward Side. And at first, people thought I was nuts. Whack job. I had people pass by and go like this, bro, you nuts. Then it started to catch on. And then what I did was I started doing it on the 11th of every month. That's when it just took off.
Now, what does your sign say?
Very simple. 9/11, never forget. Mm-hmm. And then now it is the state tried to shut me down a few months back because it's become quite a production. I've got huge American flags tied to big light posts on the other side of the highway, big signs on the other side. In the medium, I got these big old 4x4 big signs that say Honk for America, Mahalo Vets. I mean, just all down. I mean, it's like going through a different world in that little quarter-mile stretch. And granted, I love the cops. I mean, you guys are great. You know, they pass by and they're weird-sounding horns. They're constantly, they could shut me down, of course. You know, I don't know if it's illegal, but it's certainly, you know, a little off the wall, out of the edge, you know, outside the box. And a state gentleman in charge came by with his big van with the big symbol on top about 2 or 3 months ago. And we had a long conversation. He said, long story short, I wrote a letter to the governor and saying, look, come on. I mean, I'm not doing anybody damage. I'm doing this on my own. This is a patriotic thing. So I think everybody's kind of turning the cheek. So it's been, you know, Malia, I think one of the most wonderful feelings about doing that rally, and I do it for like 9-10 hours. I mean, I can barely walk. I got cramps in my legs and my back. You know, I'm not complaining. It's just that, you know, I mean, can you imagine what all those people went through at 9/11? It's nothing compared to what they went through. But it's a long, long process. But the thing that I love the most, Malia, it brings tears to my eyes, man. It's just awesome. When you see carloads of a big old SUV coming down the road, and about, you know, 100 feet down before, they already know I'm there. And you see these kids sticking their heads, their necks, I mean, out by to their waist, and uncle, uncle, and America, and thumbs up and shaka signs. Kids. Some of them probably weren't even born on 9/11. They were, and many of them were just youngsters. So what that tells me, what warms my heart, is that what I'm doing is working. Because somebody in that van or car took the time to explain to them what that man on the side of the road is doing. He's making all of us, making sure that we don't forget 9/11. Oh, what was 9/11, Ma? Well, we'll go on the computer tonight and I'll show you. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's the part that, and then all the tons, I mean, I get maybe 8,000, 10,000 honks every time I do it in that course. The honks and the shakas, and it's just, it is a reassuring feeling that America has not forgotten. We just need to be reminded now and then, and that's my job.
That's great. Okay, well, we only have about 30 more seconds to the show, so I want to make sure people know you've been on the radio, you're an author, you're a famous author, you have a lot of connections in the radio world, and you made an impact in the media as well. Can people find out more about your campaign in some way?
Yes, sure. I would love to have you visit my website, kawika4congress.com.
And it's a letter 4, right?
With the number 4.
I mean, number 4,
yes,
right. Mm-hmm.
.com. And then also, I've got tons of YouTube clips of myself talking, short little 3-4 minute clips talking about various issues. And so you can check that out at Kawika4Congress-YouTube. Would love to hear from you.
All right.
Comments.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Kawika. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you,
This has
Malia.
been a fun show today.
Thank you.
This has been News Behind the News. Aloha.